Hi guys.
Hello.
How are you both doing?
We're
Not too
okay.
bad.
So welcome to the second session of the MPTS. We're here today with two brilliant screenwriters, Sophie Petzl and Louise Hawkins, and we're going to talk all about British screenwriting. So I kind of want to introduce you guys both first. So Sophie's debut TV series was for Irish drama Blood, which went on to win Best Long Form Drama at the Writers Guild. Last year, she penned upcoming thriller Hollington Drive for ITV. But now Sophie is busy bunkered down adapting a Netflix drama, The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So very busy on that one. And then Sarah Louise Hawkins. She is a writer for BBC One's police procedural, The Mallorca Files, injecting some fresh air into daytime drama. And prior to The Mallorca Files, Sarah Lou worked on police dramas, London Kills, as well as Suspects. And before that, she was a regular writer on continuing drama for film. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
I thought it'd be nice to kind of kick off kind of gently and ask you guys kind of what got you into screenwriting in the first place? What inspired you to join the craft? Sophie, maybe if we kick off with you.
I'd always written. I was writing bad poems when I was 4. It was just I always wanted to be a writer, apart from a brief stint of time when I wanted to be an astronaut. And I'm sort of trying to combine the two in some way now. But yeah, I just always wanted to be a writer, and that kind of became an obsession with films and filmmakers. And I thought that like directors made things. I thought that was the director was the person that you wanted to be. And it was actually my mum when I was about 15 who said, you can write TV and film. There are people who do that, so you don't have to like abandon writing to become like a camera person, which is what you sort of had to do at some point. And then she bought me like the Dummies like guide to screenwriting when I was like 15, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that then, and sort of just decided. I think I thought like, oh, well, that'll just be a thing that I can just do and decide I'll do, which is sort of believably precocious. And then I went to Bournemouth University to study screenwriting for a couple of years, and then sort of moved on from there. So yeah, there was no sort of great awakening really. I just sort of always wanted to be a writer, and I think most of my adolescence was spent trying to write.
And what was your pathway in the first place? What was your kind of career way into screenwriting?
While I was at university, I basically used my time there, basically used my student loan as like living expenses while I tried to get as many unpaid internships as possible, because I couldn't afford it to otherwise. And I was very lucky my sister was at university in London, so I could sleep on her couch when I think at one point I was like editing audio porn for like a week in Soho somewhere. I just literally anything. And I somehow blagged my way onto writing jobs that I should never have any right to be working on, like a couple of video games and a CBeebies series. This was before I was still at university. And then I won a sitcom writing competition for Triforce and the BBC called All Mixed Up. Well, sorry, I was one of the winners. And so I got like work kind of showcased and got an agent that way. But it wasn't until I landed something called the BBC production traineeship, which was like an 18-month training placement at the BBC, which was invaluable. And that was what really that got me working in television. And then after that, I was in CBBC, script editing dramas like Wolf Blood and Hetty Feather for a bit. And yeah, and that was how I sort of met people and kind of got them to read my work, and eventually got working on those shows.
Great. And Sarah, the same to you. How did
we both, Sophie and I both went to Bournemouth, but many years apart. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was actually the first ever. It was the first ever screenwriting course, I think, at Bournemouth.
Wow.
And yeah, it almost exactly the same. Just writing, loved drama, hated the idea of being on the stage or in front of the camera. So it was like, how can I be involved in this world, and not have to do the stuff that I hate, which gives me anxiety. So yeah, so it was just and then so I just started writing plays and then TV scripts, and then found out about this course. And it was because I had no clue. I mean, Sophie seems to be more clued in than I was at 15, 16. I had absolutely no idea any pathway I could possibly follow to get into that. So that was the great thing about Bournemouth, as Sophie said. It was I used the time in much the same way, just writing letters, because obviously you have the tutors on the course are your first sort of connection for most people in the business, but they, obviously they have to be fair to everyone, so you can't kind of hit them up for their connection. So it's still on you to kind of go out there, and so I just wrote letters and just said, I love this show you're making. Can I come in and have a chat about it? I promise I won't end up a stalker. It will just be a 20-minute chat. Yeah, and I mostly stuck to that. And and so that's how you meet people and get them to hopefully read your work eventually. And that was the way in for me.
And did you also work on the CBBS as well?
Sophie and I both crossed paths on a show called The Dumping Ground. That's where we met.
CBBC.
CBBC, yeah, and that was my first ever break. Was literally I had a meeting with a wonderful woman, Marilyn Fox, at the BBC, and she was one of the ones I promised not to stalk, and it was literally a 10-minute chat, but I was in there for about 40 minutes, and then and she'd read a script I'd written, and then I think 2 months later, one of the writers on this show called The Biz that she was producing dropped out, and she decided to give me a shot on it. And that was before I even left Bournemouth, or just as I was leaving. So yeah. Fantastic. So yes, just be nice, be interested, and people the other side of the desk, be as open to it as you can, obviously, without wasting lots and lots and lots of your time.
Dumping Ground's one of the best shows to work on as a new writer, isn't it? Because it's basically the whole rule is put them back where you found them, and you basically get to write a half-hour short film effectively.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, it's a great. That's a great place to start.
You did sliding doors with yours, didn't you?
Yeah. It didn't really work, but I just loved that absolutely everybody was willing to give it a go. Everyone was like, I'm not sure this is working, but this is a great thing that we're doing. Yeah, exactly. You just get to sort of pitch those wild ideas.
Yeah.
Do you have any pearls of wisdom following on from Sarah's in terms of getting into screenwriting?
The thing that's always kind of, I don't know, the thing that I keep coming back to, and when I have to really think about, when people, I've friends and peers who talk about, crippling kind of anxieties and fear of failure. And I keep having to try and articulate like how I feel about these things, because I sort of do it a bit like I just wade into everything rather unthinkingly, and sort of I have a lot of fear about many things, but like I don't have much fear about trying things or like putting myself forward for things. And I think it's just because I've always believed, whether that's through sort of an immense like whether that, I don't know, this has come from like a variety of things, from like my own privilege to my background or whatever, but I've always felt like that I have as much a right to try and be crap as everybody else. And, all you have to do is watch TV to know that a lot of people are trying and being crap and trying and being great and carrying on working. Like I have as much a right to be mediocre and successful as anybody else. And I think sometimes it's we're inspired into this industry by our heroes. And you go in kind of thinking, I just really want to be like this person or that writer, and the people that you dream of being like you are just to you like geniuses. And I think that can be crippling early on. And so like I tell people a lot, maybe this is incredibly cynical, but I tell people, find a writer that you think is like solidly mediocre at doing really well, and think I can be like them. Like, just not to cripple yourself with these because like none of your heroes started off as heroic geniuses. They really, really didn't. They all started off as so that person you're idolizing now because they're doing stuff that you don't think is particularly great, but they're working solidly. If they're working solidly, it's probably because people who are working with them know they're capable of really good things. And like you might watch them evolve into a heroic genius. And I think it's just allow yourself the right to fail, because that, if there's quality in your work and if there's good stuff in there somewhere, you'll continue and it will be okay. It's not the end of the world.
Really well put. Lovely. Sophie, maybe staying with you. You're adapting at the moment quite a hefty novel for Netflix, and I wondered if you could kind of talk me through, having experience on both originals and adaptions, if you could kind of talk me through the process of both, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, with originals, you're sort of designing it from the ground up. So any kind of so there shouldn't be, if you're doing your job properly, any question about its sort of its suitability for television or suitability of every element of it for television. With an adaptation, you're often coming to something that has like a fantastic story or fantastic characters or fantastic kind of potential. And every now and again, then you're just confronted with things that are difficult to adapt, whether it's first-person narratives, plentiful internal monologue, and you might realize that in your book you've got like chapters 4 to 12 are all internal monologue, and actually in terms of action the characters just sat on a chair. Those are the kind of challenges that are sort of presented with adapting. And like novels are so different to TV, which sounds very basic, but and can get away with different things. TV gets away with things that books can't get away with, and books get away with things that TV can't get away with. And so yeah, with original, I mean, there's bonuses to both and challenges to both. Like if a book is incredibly successful of its own right, you're sort of bringing to TV like at least a portion of an audience, and at least you have something to cling to that works, the skeleton of a story, momentum, an idea, explanations for things. But at the same time, then you're often dealing with things that, like I've said, like clash with the parameters of what you need, or there's something that, like an explanation for something that might not quite translate for television. Whereas when it's an original, you're sort of designing the blueprint upwards, so you get to kind of deal with those problems in utero before it, like, it's this huge thing you've now got to sort of retrofit. So yeah, that's a fairly clunky way of explaining it, but there's sort of pros and cons to both, really.
And how are you getting on at the moment? Talk me through.
I am probably not the best person to ask. ask people reading what I'm writing. Yeah, and I'm loving it. It's the most challenging thing I've ever done, for sure. Anyone who's read the book will know it's I don't want to swear, but it's a head screwer, and yeah, and it's a beast. It's funny because I've got the pre-publication copy of the novel, so whenever I show it to people, I'm like, wow, that's an enormous novel, but actually it's not particularly long. but like, this is how big it is in my head. But we're working with an absolutely incredible team, and we've got some fantastic writers on board, and it's really exciting, and it is, but it's absolutely the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, catch up with you in a few months' time and see
yeah.
how it goes. So obviously it's been quite a chaotic year for everyone, but I was thinking for you guys especially, I mean, writing is such an incredibly creative process, and working with teams and things, and I kind of, maybe this is one for you, Sarah. How has it been writing collaboratively remotely and not being able to sit together and bounce ideas off each other? Surely I feel like writers might have had it the hardest. Maybe if you could speak to that.
Yeah, well, it's been odd in that somehow it seems like everyone else is now living our life, which is sort of stuck away at home, on their own laptop. But then I'm on I'm on the teams of two crime shows at the moment, and I've massively missed I missed the whiteboard. I never thought I'd say it. I've had to buy my own whiteboard. I miss, I just, you have these sessions on Zoom, and I know some people like them and find that that it's no muss, no fuss, kind of, you stay on track more than, say, if you're all in a room. I don't like staying on track. I like meandering off. I like the chats over coffee, the coffee breaks. It's a lonely old job sometimes. I miss it. I just miss, I miss being in a room with other writers, definitely. Yeah.
In terms of kind of being in lockdown and have you kept yourself motivated in any other ways? Because obviously now you've got so much more time on your hand. Has it been different to structure your day? Because you might have had this set day of working, but then you would go out in the evenings. So have you time scaled how you fit everything in within your set day to write? Has that altered?
No, I've kept to the same kind of schedule. It's obviously suddenly sharing your house with other people that you're not used to, because everyone else is at home, and you know, kids homeschooling and everything else. So it's, yeah, that is more disruption than I'm used to. But apart from that, I've tried to stick to to my normal routine. But I definitely found it really tricky in the beginning, you know, in the first lockdown, because no matter what you were writing, you know, the heights of the drama you were writing, nothing was more dramatic than what was going on outside and in the world. And so everything you did, I was, working on, solving murder cases, fictional ones obviously, but and the stakes were high, in story terms, but yeah, still felt very minuscule compared to, just and being a news junkie like everyone else, and having to tear yourself away from that. So yeah, they've been the main things really.
And kind of staying on COVID, I wondered if either of you could maybe speak to the challenges that screenwriters have had. I know that payments are paid in two halves. So for those of you that don't know, I guess the first payment is when the end of scripts are written, and then the second payment is on the first day principal photography. Obviously, delayed shoots has been a real disruptor to that. And I wondered if either of you could kind of unpack that and kind of speak to that challenge.
Well, no, I definitely can on that. I mean, Mallorca Files series 2 was mid shoot on Mallorca when lockdown happened, and so I think we were 6 episodes in for out of 10. So that was an immediate. And I had written the closing episode of that series, so that was an amazing an immediate hit. And then another show I was working on was due to go into production a few months later. That obviously didn't happen. So yeah, it's been, and for the same for a lot of writers who haven't been able to get into production. It's been a year of financial turmoil in that respect, because money that you were very much counting on just hasn't come in, and it's the same across the industry, obviously.
Yeah, and the challenges, I guess, of backlogging, of the backlogging of productions. And I know Sophie was talking slightly the other day about how then the casting again, so this backlog is going to fill up, and then getting people back on the shoots. And I don't know if that as well we could kind of discuss that quite briefly.
Everything becomes sort of, there are new challenges presented to the bonus of everything opening up, and like everybody is competing for cast, everybody's competing for talent, directors, crew, everything. That's just about 20% harder now. Also things like getting locations. Nobody, when you're being told to stay at home and you're terrified for your life, nobody really wants to be looking at the bottom of their garden and seeing grips kicking cans around and drinking coffee, and like having a laugh and being everyone, we're having to be incredibly sensitive at the minute, rightly. And also there's just a lot more reticence to sort of welcome the great circus into your community. And so, yeah, everything is just sort of backed up and a bit slow. And like, it's been, I've been very lucky that I've been managing to work through most of the pandemic, which is a great deal more fortunate than a great many of my friends and peers. But yeah, having shows pushed back, when that's where half our money comes from, you're then having to take on extra kind of early work, development work, and just to try and like make ends meet, really. And so it's, I know writers who've been weirdly overworked this time because they're having to take on more. I mean, there's an element of like huge privilege to this, obviously, because we are working on something, but there's been a real, I think, particularly of like writers who are kind of earlier in their careers, where they're like, their rates might not be as high, and they're absolutely dependent on the fees that they get when they're shooting, and there hasn't really been much movement to ease that trouble for lower income writers.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, we're kind of going to wrap up on my section anyway. So thank you guys for that. And I thought we would quickly go to the audience for some questions. These are all quite a little bit nuts and boltsy. So let's go through some of these. So we've got one here that asks, do you guys set yourself pages per day targets when you're working towards the deadline?
What do you, Sarah?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever stuck to it though. You obviously you work out how many days you've got. You take off some personal days, and then you do the maths, and then you chuck that whole schedule out the window basically, because one day you can write 6 brilliant pages, and another day or more, and end up like with your spine twisted into a pretzel shape because you've just been like, and I mean, I literally have gone into situations where a writing day sometimes where I've it is that thing of literally going down the wormhole and just suddenly thinking I've just been typing for 45 minutes or something, and it's like 3.5 hours. So but oh gosh, if every day was like that, a script would take you 3 days.
My target is to get it in on time and not get sacked. That's it. I then spend like 3 days doing nothing and panicking and writing, and it's blood from a stone, and then I spend 2 days doing 45 pages a day. And it will be effortless, and it won't necessarily be good, but it'll just be effortless somehow. It's just I get it, and I know what I'm doing, and I know what I want to do, and I can't I'm better now at like pushing myself to work even when I feel when it's not coming. But I've also got better at kind of giving myself a break and knowing that I will get there. And if I just need to take today to actually, if it's not happening, there's less value for me in pushing myself to just sit at my desk and stare and panic and get anxious. I could just take that day as a write-off and know that there will, like tomorrow or the day after, or even that night, sometimes about like 11 p.m. I have a real kind of clarity moment. I think because emails stop coming in, there's no pressure, no one's awake, Twitter has died. Like, you can just go, I'm just free to write now.
Now, Sophie, I think that is an excellent point. And that is something that comes with experience. I mean, in the early days, the amount of time you literally, if you're stuck on something, you literally will sit there at your laptop or computer until blood is coming out of your ears, and just thinking, I can't, I've literally had, so much stress. And now I do exactly that. Just if it's not coming, just switch off, and it always, it always solves itself. It does.
Yeah, it's harder now because there's less for us to do. Like I used to love going to the cinema, and I'd often come out of the cinema or like and have a problem solved if I was like stuck on a script knot. And now it's like I just do the same walk again and again, or I play video games, and because I'm staying with my parents, they watch me as I'm playing video games as they go to make lunch at their work while they're working. And I'm like, I'm working, I promise, I'm just having a break. But I can't. It's weird that there's less to do now to relax yourself. But I think everyone's in that situation.
To be fair, you must take inspiration from video games as it is, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I do it. Yeah.
Mine was my block clearer is riding the 65 bus. I ride the whole route.
Yes, I used to love riding the 63 all the way from like Peckham to King's Cross and then walk back. Yeah,
there's something about it.
Look outside, there are writers walking.
So I've got a question here, just a bit more on how you kind of get into screenwriting internships, or how you search and how you find the opportunities that you guys had in the beginning. But where's the best place for you to kind of mine those?
I mean, there are like writing competitions. I don't know of any writing internships unless you want to become a journalist. There are, I mean, when I was applying for internships and work placements and stuff, it was literally just anything to do with media, like for instance, audio porn. So in terms of internships and jobs and stuff, like go to any company that you like who makes programs, or their umbrella company these days, and Google like work and look at their kind of job opportunities. I used to haunt the BBC jobs website because they used to have a lot of sort of trainee placements and stuff like that. I don't know what the situation is like anymore there. but in terms of writing, there are like BBC Writers' Room is a really good resource for writing competitions. There's stuff like the Red Planet Prize and things like that. There's a lot of good prizes and good competitions to enter with. I mean, you win you a career, and like, because I won a couple of prizes sort of early on, but they win you a moment in the spotlight, and that's really useful. And also, it's a very low stakes low stakes kind of invite to write a script and get it cut and to submit it, and like writing to a deadline and submitting it on time is practice. Even if you don't win anything, you've written something and delivered it, and I think that's invaluable.
Definitely. Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add on that? Or?
No, the BAFTA new Rockcliffe.
Rockcliffe, yeah,
Rockcliffe is a good one. And yeah, just writing and sending stuff off. I think it is more difficult now than when I started, as far as you would have to wait a very long time for someone to read your work, but now it's most companies will take only stuff that's agented. So yeah, those ways in are the best ways in still. And as I said, just also just make personal contacts by writing to people and getting in touch with people and just having a chat for 10 minutes over a cup of tea. It's that's invaluable as well.
Low-key stalking.
Yeah no stalking.
So I've got a question here about how have you adapted to writing COVID lockdown productions, I guess. So I don't know if any of you have any experience with this at the moment, maybe not, but I'm taking that to mean now that shows might be bubbled, like characters are bubbled. Is there anything that is different in the writing in order to make those productions run smoothly?
The only thing, I mean, I've got a show that's in prep now that's going to shoot in the spring, May, I think. I love that I don't know. And the only thing that it's all sort of a challenge and it's all kind of in hand. And I think everyone's definitely got better at doing it now. That seems to be the consensus. We talk to more and more crew and producers who have done it now, who've done, their first kind of COVID production was in October, and now they're on their like third or fourth. So I don't know. I certainly haven't had to really alter my writing for it. At the beginning of all this, there was talk about kind of COVID writing with characters not kissing and stuff, and I'm like, I'd rather just write podcasts then, thanks. And wait for when TV can TV again. But no, the only thing that we've been told like will be a challenge is indoor crowded scenes like a party. But I've not yet been told to change that. I might still be, but so far I think everyone's just trying to make things work, understanding that people want kind of normal TV, insofar as much as is safe for everybody involved.
Will there be shaking hands though from now on?
No elbow bumps.
I think there is. Yeah, they got high.
Everything's fine, but no one will shake hands. Shaking hands is,
I'm
so
happy for that
2019 now.
I'm also happy for people to stop just grabbing me and hugging me and kissing me when we've never really met before, which is a very TV thing. Like, oh, hello, darling. And I'm like, no, don't put your face near me. So I'm quite happy for all that to just go if we're not friends.
Well, I feel like that's a good note to end on. Nobody touch Sophie ever again, please. Just the industry.
Very happy. Just wave at me when I walk into a room. Thanks.
Well, great. We've come to the end of the session. So thank you guys so much for your time. It was really lovely chatting everything through this morning. And I'll everyone stay on for the rest of the session as well, the rest of the day and tomorrow. So great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hannah.
Bye.
Bye.